We're back in open session. Item 3.3, conference with labor negotiator, district designated representative Jeremy O'Banion, board president, unrepresented employee superintendent. The governing board has appointed Megan Grijalva as the next superintendent of Dos Palace or Loma Joint Unified School District, subject to the approval of an employment contract, which will be done in open and public session. Members Jeremy O'Banion, Moy Mraz, Lisa Reyes, Tina Austin, Gordon Bonds, and Bill Van Wert voted yes. The vote was unanimous. Congratulations. It is moved that the governing board of education herein and cause retain 15 students in the district. Motion was made in closed session by board member Mraz, seconded by board member Austin. With a roll call vote, Mrs. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Austin?
Yes.
Mraz?
Yes.
Mr. O'Banion is a yes. Mr. Van Wert?
Yes.
And Mrs. Davis is absent. .1, I guess motion passed. 5.1, notice of intent to request waiver. This is Grijalva.
Yes, sir. So this is a waiver. We start the districting process. There's two options or two pathways. So one pathway is to go through the whole process of dividing and investigating everything, and then we can go to a vote for the public to vote. The second option is that we can do a resolution and the board will vote. So this is a waiver asking the state to go the resolution process.
Any questions?
Where the board will be the one deciding district?
The board will be the one doing a resolution and then voting on the resolution.
The resolution will be,
Whatever we decide.
okay, that's gonna be decided. Okay.
We will have input on how the districts are being drawn. Okay. Correct?
Correct.
That's right. Any other questions? 6.1, pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Ready, salute.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
of the United States of America, which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
7.1, implication. Mr. Lemos, would you please do us the honor?
Short notice. Do some of my best work on short notices. Just bow your head. Dear Lord, we come together to thank you for the strength and the ability to withstand the pandemic and to come through it stronger and better. Dear Lord, we thank you for watching over our community, watching over our staff, and watching over our students, and allowing them to come to school, receive their education in a safe fashion. Dear Lord, as the district transitions, we ask that you watch over all of our leadership team. We ask that you give them the strength and wisdom to guide us, to bring us back to the grander days of success with our students. We ask that you pray for those who have left the district and are leaving this district. And please pray for those that have left this earth and now sit with you. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Lemos. 8.1, public concerns will be heard by the board at this time. However, they will not be discussed. Policy 9323 limits individuals' presentation to 3 minutes. The president may extend the time under certain circumstances. This is the opportunity for members of the public to focus on issues important to the district's purpose of education. Under board policy, this time may not be used to present derogatory information or personal nature of an employee. Members of the public who wish to address the board must speak from the podium and identify themselves. Your husband's giving me a look like I don't even know what she's gonna say.
So, we are going to take this opportunity to recognize, two special people in our district, who are retiring. One is with us today, one is not, but, because we are on Zoom, we still want to continue with the recognition because she definitely deserves it. So if I could have Mr. Hall and Mrs. Darnell come on up, please. Good evening, Board President O'Banion, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and community members. This evening, we honor the career of an incredible teacher, Mrs. Rosemary Jordan. So any great teacher will tell you that teaching isn't actually about teaching. That teaching is about learning, and Rose was passionate about learning. So I have had the honor of working alongside Rose for the past 2 years. And they have been 2 very difficult years in education, as we all know. And that didn't slow Rose down. So Rose actually this year volunteered to be one of our distance learning teachers, and she had to find an entirely new way to get students to be excited and to have students be engaged and to have students learn. I remember one afternoon, I went to visit her and she told me that her students had learned the distributive property and that they got it. And she was proud and could feel it, and it was incredible. This year, Rose decided to tackle a new novel study with her students, a novel study on Zoom with 8-year-olds. And when the book was over, they were sad because it was incredible. So she asked them if they wanted to keep going, and the kids who volunteered and said, yeah, I want to keep going, Rose went out and she bought them the sequel of the book. And she found a way to get it in their hands. And when school was over, she hosted a book club for her students on Zoom. And she shared with them her passion. And that is what is going to be the legacy of the career of Mrs. Jordan. And it is her love of learning. And it'll live on in her students, and it'll live on at Mark's. And it was an honor to have worked alongside her. Congratulations, Mrs. Jordan.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Frank Lemos, coach, a mentor, a teacher, administrator, a husband, a father, and a friend. Mr. Lemos embodied all of these traits. And at times he wore many different hats, depending on the people that he impacted. Like many people in this district, I've had the opportunity of knowing Frank for many, many years. He taught myself, as well as other players, students, co-workers, what it means to be a true Bronco. He taught us to value and treasure tradition. He taught us to treat others the way you want to be treated. But most of all, he taught us that it isn't about how you start the race, but it's about how you finish it. Mr. Lemos would never back down from a challenge. Whether it was an opponent Friday night on the football field, or a student who needed to be taken under his wing and saved, or even a school that needed to be saved with so much love. I stand here as not only a part of this administrative team, but as a former student, player, and mentee to say, thank you, Mr. Lemos. Because what you did, it mattered.
I got something to say. Hey, Mr. Amos, I would like to personally thank you for your 31 years of service. We've gone through a lot together. I think I was in on a hiring panel the day we hired you as the wrestling coach at Dpol High School and PE teacher. And looking back on it, it's been a really good situation. The Athletic Boosters, as most of you probably know, is doing a brick fundraiser at the stadium. And the Athletic Boosters has donated a brick in Frank's name. It's going to be done, and it's going to be done right. And it's going to be put in and be one of the first bricks that goes in out there. So I appreciate you a bunch.
Thank you.
Those of you who stick around and would like to get a picture
I have no pictures.
of our, actually a photo op, we have a full.
Do I have a minute? Mr. President, do I have a
Go
minute?
for it.
So I have to just, there's a lot I can say, a lot I want to say. I sit up in the morning and I get up at about 4:35 and I just recall stuff. And it took a lot of colleagues. It took a lot of people in the community. It took a lot of teachers. And most of all, it took athletes to buy in to the insanity in which I was trying to get them to understand, to be successful, and to be a winner. I think, personally, I don't want to be known or be defined through coaching. I'd rather be defined as someone who defines coaching. The idea that I was able to coach multiple sports in 3 different decades. I think the biggest challenge of coaching has been at George Christian for 8 years. Instead of, oh, woe is me, I figured, what the hell? This might be the lowest of lowest teams I've ever coached, and it's time to coach them up and change the culture, and that's what I try to do. Before I go back and sit down, I just want you all to understand there's a lot of things that I hold true to my heart. Those 8 Valley titles are a culmination of coaching, assistant coaches, and athletes. And the 3 with Sparks, same thing. And Sparks told me, just don't screw up talent. Coach when you have to. But I think the biggest thing, as I've lived here in Dos Palace for 31 years, in the same house for 29 years, I said this to Bill, Ernie Wall, and Tom Scheit that day, was that I was here to make a difference. And I think the biggest difference is not just those Valley titles. I think the bigger difference are the things like the bond issue, the Hall of Fame, the building of that softball field so those girls would have to identify a place where they could play and call it their home field. The cafeteria at George Christian, adult ed in your community. Those are the things I wish that all of you just remember Frank a little bit about, because those championships, those rings are in the drawer. They aren't mine. Those are the kids that won. And just for the record, ladies and gentlemen, the picture you saw in the paper in Fireball, not a better moment than having their coach and their GM give us a trophy. But I want you to know that that was our 28th anniversary. I want you to know that that night we had our anniversary dinner at the Pizza Factory in Fireball, California. And I also want you to know that my wife drove a van, and I believe that we are the first couple to be collectively as 2 people coaching a wrestling program to win a Valley title. So that title is just as much as hers, because
There's a rumor out there she knows more about wrestling than you do.
there have been a few times when she'd call out moves before I would, and I think Bill recalls I got up out of the chair in the corner and I said, you need to come down and do this because I can't say nothing before you say it. But it's been an adventure. I tried to give the district as much as I possibly could, 100%. And sometimes I think the question that was answered, whether I was still loyal to the Broncos at 57, asked to go back in the wrestling room with 2 bad hips. That pretty much speaks volumes, because I'm a Bronco. I'm not a Dos Palawan, I'm a transplant. but I am a Bronco. And Megan, put your fingerprint on it. Bring the community in on with you, and success shall follow you too. Thank you to the board. Thank you to the staff that are here. All of you. You two squirrels especially, because I hired both of you. And I appreciate everything. Thank you very much, and best of luck. This is my last meeting. I ain't coming no more.
Congratulations, both of you. 9.1 consent counter represents routine items acted upon in one motion by a roll call vote. The recommendation is for adoption unless otherwise specified. Any item can be removed for discussion upon request. Contracts, agreements, and proposals. 9.2 2021-22 contract for media services with Merced County Office of Education. 9.3 Associated Student Body Club Establishment, Dos Palos Esports Club, Dos Palos High School. 9.4 Small School Districts Association. 9.5 Contract for facilities lease of classrooms with Merced County Office of Education, Dos Palos Elementary Room 35 and Dos Palos High School Room 2223. 9.6 Learning Genie Software Suite. 9.7 2021-22 Merced County Office of Education MOU Teacher Induction Program. 9.8 MOU for Services Parents Institute for Quality Education PK. 9.9 Illuminate Education Renewal. 9.10 Fullets Subscription Renewal. 9.11 Renaissance Subscription Renewal. 9.12 Preschool Contract and Resolution number 2021-20 regarding State Child Development Preschool Program. Donations. 9.13 Monetary donations to Dos Palos High School Wrestling 9.15 warrants and payroll. Is there a motion to take all together?
So moved.
By Mr. Moran,
Second.
second by Mr. Van Wert. Is there any discussion on any of these items? Anybody have any questions about any of them? Call for the vote. And passes. Action item 10.1, revised single plan for student achievement. 2020-21 school year, Bryant Middle School. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Mraz. Second by Mr. Bonds. Mrs. Grijalva.
This is just a revised SIPSA from the FPM audit. We'll be probably bring this to you one more time to make sure we're meeting the requirements for our federal program.
Are there any questions? Call for the vote. That passes. 10.2 Parsec Educational Services Agreement. Is there a motion?
So move.
By Mr. Van Wert,
Second.
second by Mr. Mraz.
Parsec Education does our multiple metrics report card, is also developing a dashboard for.
Can we ask her to take her mask off when she
School sites, so this is.
Can we ask her to take her mask off when she
Service
talks?
agreement for the next 3 years.
I can't, can you hear?
Contract with this company.
Are there any questions? Call for the vote. Passes. 10.3 contract for training through EMT Associates Incorporated on substance use in adolescents, a brief intervention. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Mraz,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Bond. Mrs. Grijalva.
This is a professional development for our counseling team on short-term counseling interventions on the topic of drug substance abuse and use for adolescents.
Are there any questions?
Mrs. Grijalva, can you take your mask off when you're talking, please? I mean, I can't hear as it is, but
Are there any questions? Call for the vote. That passes. 10.4, resolution number 2021-18 sober grad night support. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Mraz,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Van Wert. Mrs. Grahal.
This is a resolution to support the sober grad night in the parent club this school year. The already passed, but we are going to be hopefully supporting this program every year for the safety of our seniors, ensuring that they go to sober grad instead of.
Are there any questions?
Is there any way to get that back on campus or,
Sober grad.
yeah, it used to be on campus at one time. And I think we moved it off campus.
I think the liability on campus, they can do more activities off of campus. That was the reason.
It's never been on campus.
Are there any other questions? Call for the vote. Passes. 10.5, resolution 2021-19 authorizing a request for waiver of the requirement of election process for the by trustee area. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Mraz,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Austin. Mrs. Grahal.
So this is the actual resolution for the waiver that I explained at the beginning.
Are there any questions? Call for the vote. That passes. 10.6, adoption, March board policy updates. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Mraz,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Bonds. Mrs. Grahal.
They're just our normal board policy updates to keep us legally sound.
Are there any questions? Call for the vote. It passes. 10.6, adoption, or 10.7, Marks Elementary restroom, American Modular Systems restroom building. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Mraz,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Perez.
So Currently Marks Elementary has 50 staff members on site with only 2 restrooms. So this would bring an additional restroom onto the site for usage.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, we're spending $250,000 on one bathroom, one restroom. That's more than my house cost. And it's affordable.
It's men's,
think
unisex, ladies restroom.
I don't think we have a choice, but it's ridiculous.
It's COVID times.
COVID money spent.
Any other questions?
Say what?
I said I can elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure.
If you want, Mr. Roth, that's okay. So, in the discussions we had, while I was president of Dpol, that was one of the needs identified. And in having conversations with Matt and Dr. Miller, about the bathroom needs at Marks, because again, the 2 staff restrooms you use are the ones full campus uses. And so when we had the influx of COVID money, and I think Melissa was part of that conversation too, Matt was able to say, look, we found this a 12 by 40 modular system, and it has men's, women's, and unisex bathroom. The men, I think, has 2 stalls and 2 urinals, and the women's has 3 or 4 stalls. So it's a nice setup. If you've ever seen the one at the end of the teens wing at the high school that faces the cafeteria on the newer end, similar to that kind of setup. So it's not just a restroom, it's 3
Not just 2
multi-person
stalls.
restrooms.
It's,
Yeah, it's probably, capacity of anywhere, probably like 10 people at once. if
My
it's-
point wasn't that we don't need it. My point was, my point was that that's a lot of money for a portable restroom.
Yeah,
but it's. a
I was
much
just
larger-
clarifying, just so you didn't think it was just 2 more
2,
bathrooms. It's-
Yeah. No, that painted a good picture. 'Cause it's a large restroom.
Something like at Yosemite High School at the end of the football field, is that what we're sort of,
Probably,
something like
Better
that?
than that, this is gonna be stucco, it's gonna be brought in, it's gonna be finished.
It's from what I gathered in the last conversation I had with Matt, it's gonna be similar to the one we have there at the high school. Then
It's gonna be a finished restroom, but it's gonna start as a portable.
So did we get multiple bids on that, or you guys just get one bid?
That I don't know, Melissa will probably know more about that portion of the meeting.
Multiple bid?
Call for the vote. And passes. 10.8, Bryant Middle School's asbestos removal park environment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Morales, second by Mr. Van Wert. Mr. Hall.
So Matt's been working campus by campus to remove the asbestos in different buildings. So this would be a wing of Bryant Middle School, removing the asbestos. It's the first part of this.
Any questions? Call for the vote. That passes. 10.9, Bryant Middle School new roof, straight edge roofing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Morales,
Second.
second by Mr. Bonds. Mr. Hall.
So as we remove the asbestos, we'll need to put on a new roof. And so this is the request for a new roof for that project.
Any questions? Okay. 10.10, local control accountability plan, LCAP, 2021 LCAP addendum. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Mraz,
Second.
by Mr. Bonds, Mr. Hall.
On Tuesday, we had the LCAP hearing, which we presented the upcoming 3-year LCAP as far and as well as the addendum from the last cycle. So this is an action item to approve. the new 3-year cycle.
Are there any questions? Call for the vote. Passes. 10.11, 20, 21, 22 budget. Is there a motion?
So moved.
For Mr. Mraz,
Second.
Mr. Bonds, Mrs. Grijalva, or
On Tuesday, we, Mrs. Popinski presented the 21-22 budget. So this is the, after collecting feedback, we approved it.
any questions? Call for the vote. Passes. 10.12, Bryant Middle School, new floor, RJ Commercial Flooring Company. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Morales,
Second.
Mr. Bond, Mrs. Grijalva.
This is the same project with asbestos removal. There was quite a bit of asbestos in the floor and the roof. And so this would be removing the asbestos, putting the new floor.
Are there any questions? Call for the vote. Passes. 10.13, resolution 2021-21 for temporary interfund cash borrowing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Mr.
Second.
Rath, by Mr. Bonds.
This provides us the opportunity to borrow funds from one account to the other. So if there is a fund that isn't funded through the government yet, we can borrow from another account to.
Okay, Bill. Are there any questions? Call for the vote. That passes. 10.14, resolution 2021-22 education protection account funding. Is there a motion?
So moved.
By Mr. Mraz,
Second.
by Mr. Bonds, Mrs. Grijalva.
So this creates a state general fund and education program account to receive and disperse the revenues derived from the incremental increases in taxes each year. I'll explain a little bit better.
These revenues are specifically called out to be used for instructional purposes. So this is identifying the projected amount of funds that are available and are intended use for those funds.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Passes. Personnel, 11.1, curriculum specialist, TOSA, Dos Passos High School, recommended candidate, Sherry Cornell. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. Take
All right.
11.1 to 11.19 all in one.
There's a motion on the floor by board member Moraz to take 11.1 through 11.19, all in one motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
By Mr. Van Worth. Are there any questions on any of these items? Making sure that everybody knows that 11.18 was removed. 11.1 curriculum specialist, TOSA, Dos Passos High School, recommended candidate Sherry Cornell. 11.2 elementary teacher, Dos Passos Elementary, recommended candidate Vanessa Orozco Jimenez. 11.3 FMLA, 11.4 school psychologist intern, 2021-2022 school year district, recommended candidate Alexandra Navarro. 11.5 varsity football assistant coach, Dos Passos High School, recommended candidate Ryan Uriart. 11.6 extra pay for extra duty, district nurse, COVID protocol, 2021-22. 11.7 revised job description, assistant superintendent, educational services. 11.8 create and hire assistant superintendent, human resources. 11.9 create and hire director of student services, intervention and alternative education. 11.10 volunteer football coach, Dos Passos High School, recommended candidate Joseph Coelho. 11.11 junior varsity volleyball head coach, Dos Passos High School, recommended candidate Priscilla Gomez. 11.12 junior varsity football assistant coach, Dos Passos High School, recommended candidate John Garcia. 11.13 volunteer football coach, Dos Passos High School, recommended candidate Frank Lemos. 11.14 prep period buyout for 2021-22 school year for Chris Sharnick, Dos Passos High School. 11.15 MTSS training for counselors, psychologists, director, student services, and principals. 11.16 contract for services with Ellen Gervais, co-teaching training for Bryant Middle School and DPHS staff. 11.17 added autism authorization for teachers. 11.18 was removed. 11.19 RAMP coaching to improve counseling program and support RAMP certification. Are we caught up?
Did you get a second?
Yes.
Who was the second? I have Mr. Morales.
Mr. Van Worth?
Hmm.
You were the second, correct?
Yes.
Your vote?
Good. Are there any questions on any of these items? Call for the vote. And it passes. 11.20 assistant principal, Dos Passos High School, recommended candidate Sergio Padilla. Is there a motion?
So move.
By Mr. Moran,
Second.
by Mr. Bond. Are there any questions? Call for the vote. Congratulations, Mr. Padilla. It passed. 11.21 contract of employment for superintendent Megan Grijalva. Now, the governing board has appointed, nope, that's not it. Before the board is an employment agreement for Megan Grijalva to serve as superintendent of the district. Mrs. Grijalva will be paid an annual base salary of $164,817, which includes a cell phone and car allowance. The district will also pay the same premium for health benefit package, which is provided to its other certificated management employees, which is currently $14,000. Is there a motion to approve Mrs. Grijalva's contract of employment?
So moved.
By Mr. Moran,
Second.
by Mrs. Reyes. Are there any questions? Call for the vote. Congratulations, Mrs. Grijalva. Now you'll be getting paid for the work you've been doing. Your dedication. Information and discussion items, 12.1, resignations. Mrs. Grijalva. Okay, any questions on any of that? Written report 13.1, food services, Rona Sullivan. 13.2, health services, Priscilla Whitaker. 13.3, maintenance operations and transportation, Matthew McCullough. 13.4, preschool, Virginia Franco. 13.5, special education, Laura Delmas. 13.6, technology, Fajay Lee. 14.1, oral reports, fiscal, cash status update presented by Melissa Kelpinski, Assistant Superintendent, Business Services. Mrs. Kelpinski.
Hello, good evening. And I have for you the cash report for second to last month of this fiscal year, which is kind of crazy to be realizing that that's where we're at. But as you know from the budget hearing, there are some changes to this cash flow report, only because we have received revenues that are our one-time COVID dollar revenues. So if you look at the beginning, our cash has started the same. Ending cash is tracking okay on that bottom line, but our ending fund balance has increased significantly, and that is because of those one-time dollars that have started coming in and are expected to be coming in, because we have not only the cash for some of them, but the promise of that revenue to be received either as we use them, the COVID funds. Some of them are kind of reimbursable in nature, or they'll be sending us allotments quarterly, monthly. They're all kind of do something different. So at the moment, we're still in good shape. We have some unprecedented times with some unprecedented dollars to do some great things. So looking pretty good at the moment.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Kelpinski? Thank you very much. 14.2, superintendent report. Mrs. Grijalva, making your first superintendent report.
I have a list, so.
I knew you would. I'll get a list at home.
So first up, update is summer school is going great. We have summer school at every school site. We have doubled the amount of students who have participated in the previous years. So that's great news, supporting more students. And staff seem to be having, obviously teaching and being scattered, having fun while doing so with our kids. So the idea of re-engaging them back in education has been effective. Two, our staff have been engaging in professional development, or plan to engage in professional development. I think we all have had a exhausting year, so for them to commit during the summertime to start preparing for the next year, I just want to commend them and thank them for continuing to serve our students. I also just want to take the opportunity to tell everyone in this room and not in this room how much I appreciate this opportunity. I would not be here with all of your guys' support and the support of our community. So just want to go on the record and thank everybody. And then lastly, Mr. Lemos and Mrs. Jordan, thank you for your service. I appreciate that. I know I keep saying that it is. We appreciate it more than enough. So we hope you have a great.
Live the dream, baby.
We'll see you on.
Go fishing.
Thank you, Mrs. Grijalva.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Superintendent Grijalva. How's that sound there? 14.3, report from board members. Ms. Austin.
Just wanted to thank everyone for all the work they did this year to make it through. It hasn't been easy, and we appreciate the effort that you guys have done to make our kids feel as successful as they were.
Yeah, I'm just sort of sad. We're sort of starting a new year with Megan, and Frank going out is a sort of a sad day. But I'm really excited about the job Megan's going to do, and I feel pretty confident that this district's in pretty good hands.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Welcome, Mr. Alva, Mr. Lemos. last board meeting told you thank you, but 31 years. My freshman year, your first year coaching. We remember you well, and we still talk about you, so.
You're responsible for this, Mr. Lowell.
Thank all the teachers. Awesome job. We're gonna have a great year. We're already planning for great things, so we're gonna make things happen.
My sentiments, congratulations, Mr. Hall. I know you're gonna do wonderful. We're here to support you. Mr. Lemos, good, bad, indifferent, ugly. Thank you very much for your service. You've definitely made an impact on our community, and that you will be remembered. Good or bad, right? But seriously, congratulations. Thank you. And
Thank you.
we just approved you as an assistant football coach. So you ain't going nowhere. But and Mrs. Jordan also, once again, it's been a tough year. This is not probably, our job hasn't probably been as tough as the teachers and administrators in the classroom probably has. I mean, it has not, definitely not been easy. One thing we've done real well is we've stuck together and we've supported it, and we've done it all in what we feel is the best benefit of our students. And that's what we're supposed to be here for, first and foremost. So I want to thank everybody for that. Mrs. Perez?
I also would like to thank Ms. Jordan and Frank. Ms. Jordan, I really didn't get to work with very much, but Mr. Lemos, I did, and I really enjoyed it, and I missed those days. So I'm gonna miss you. Ms. Grijalva, I think this is the perfect fit for the district, and I know with the drive and ambition that you have and that you've had for years, that we are on the locomotive, and hopefully we get things going.
Mr. Bonds?
Everything Lisa said. No, thank you, Frank, Miss Jordan. You know, go fishing, enjoy life. Go catch some of those big old halibut. Bring some pictures back. Megan, I'm excited to where you're gonna take us. Looking forward to it. And thank the staff and everybody. Really appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. 15.1, request for board members for future agenda items. Ms. Austin, Mr. Van Worth, Mr. Morales. Mr. Wayne has nothing. Mrs. Reyes,
Have anything?
Mr. Bonds. Therefore, 16.1, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
So move.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Reyes. Call for the vote. Everybody be safe. It's gonna be hot. Stay cool. Bill, vote before you shut it down.
It's already
Come
went
on,
off.
Bill.
I'm a no, yes.